My loves, we are talking about having some more freedom because I think that is one of the most innate human things that we have, this desire to be free and a desire to have self command. I talk often about this idea that I believe we each have an inner captain, that part of ourself that navigates our vessel, our being, and gets to choose where it is that we go. And when we don't feel like we have control over the vessel, that we have the freedom to choose what it is that we want, it feels terrible, right? So today, we're chatting about this whole idea. It was inspired by a conversation that I had with one of our fellow mappers. And she was talking about how she was feeling really stuck in terms of what she had been doing with her life for the last 10 years. She was, very successful in her career. There had been a lot of expectation from her family, her community, that she pursue a particular path. And that's what she did. And she did it really well. And yet she also felt like she was dying inside because she felt like she didn't have the freedom to choose something else. So I want to speak to that today. And I know that it's going to resonate with a number of you because this is something that I hear about again and again, and something that I lived certainly for a number of years in my own life until I decided to choose a different path. So we are going to be chatting about that today. And what's really fun is that we have a new technology that we're using where if you are watching right now and you can't stay for the whole thing or would like to get the recap, all you have to do is comment below the word recap, and then you will automatically receive a message on Facebook, and I will send you the link to the blog, which has the replay of this particular chat, the audio, and the full transcript. So excited about that. And if that's something that you want to use, go ahead and comment below with the word recap. All right, my loves, let's talk about how we can feel trapped. That is of course why this problem, this feeling like you don't have the freedom to choose, can be so stressful and feel so shitty. It feels terrible, right? So there's a few different ways that we can feel trapped, and I want to go through these three. One is that we can feel trapped by our success. This is one that seems a bit counterintuitive because I think no matter what culture you're born into, each culture has their own sort of narrative of what it means to be successful. And in America, where I live, it's pretty classic, what we call the American dream, where you go to a good college, you marry someone, you have kids, you have a good job, you retire, whatever those things are. And so I think a lot of us, whether we're conscious of it or not, we end up pursuing a path that we believe is going to be what we want and is going to give us what we want, or it's just what we're supposed to do, right? And often I will talk to people who have done that and have done all the things that they were supposed to do. And yet they feel like they are trapped in their success, trapped with the job that they're doing, the income that they have to make, the mortgage they have to pay, the kids that they are raising. And it's this feeling like, it's awful. It's almost like a sense of just deep disappointment, if not experiencing betrayal. Like, I did what I was supposed to do. I stayed true to this idea of what being successful was like, setting the right goals, going after them, achieving them. And here I am, trapped in my success and all that I'm doing, right? The expression golden handcuffs can be used for some that are particularly high achievers, high earners, and they got what they thought they wanted, but then it really didn't have that type of satisfaction. And so often people can feel like, oh, but I can't do what I really want to do. I wish I had the freedom to choose. I wish I had the freedom to pursue my creativity, to change careers, to go take a sabbatical, to go back to school. to write that book for all my writers out there. And and it just feels like you're trapped. And of course, the warden of this particular prison is your clever brain. It is that belief system, that series of thoughts that your clever brain produces to have you convinced that you don't have the freedom to choose something else, that your life is too hard, it's too complicated, you're too adult to really be able to pursue the things that you want. Trapped by success. That is one of the ways we get stuck. Another way that we get stuck is trapped by expectation. I remember talking to a lovely woman who, again, someone who had been very successful in her chosen career. And she really just wanted to go open a farm. I can't recall if it was like a rescue farm for animals but it was something totally different from her current life and from the career that she had been building for decades at that point. And when I asked her, what was in the way of her pursuing that and going after it, and she responded very sincerely, listen, I've got kids. I've got kids that I'm putting through college, and I have to continue staying on this track, making this money to put them through college. And my thought was, I wonder if she has talked with them about this, because my initial response was, oh my God, if this was my mom, I'd be like, Mom, go open this thing, go do what makes you come alive and feel happy. And like, I'll figure it out. I love you for wanting to put me through college, but there are loans, or I can work, or there are other ways. It's not like a this or that, but our clever brain loves to present our life as a series of false binaries, that it's this or it's that. It's yes or it's no. It's you get the money or you get to be happy. And it's not that way, but it feels that way because our clever brain convinces us that it is so. Another way that we get trapped. Oh, Vicky's saying, stupid clever brain. I know. It does feel like it is a giant pain in the ass a lot of times. And it's just part of our human experience. It's part of our brain that is one of the most primal parts of us. And there's a lot of history, a lot of science and DNA and stuff that I am not an expert in, but it's encoded in our body. So it is a practice and a skill to recognize when clever brain is running things, and then getting to choose love, choose to take action from love, choose possibility, choose freedom. All right, so let me do the third way we get trapped. And it's really, well, it's another way of describing clever brain, actually. It's the thoughts that we think. I mean, I'm sure you've heard some version of this before, but it really comes down to, our experience of life is based on the thoughts that we think, what we believe, and then how we feel about it. And I once heard somebody say, I wish I could remember who, that if you are thinking something about yourself and it hurts, then you are telling yourself a lie, which is really clever brain is lying to you and you are believing it. And that's something that, we all do. And I do this as much as I talk about this, coach about it, practice about it. I have to practice every single day, all day long. As I was getting my notes together for this chat that we're doing right now, my clever brain was causing all kinds of self-doubt, or what are you doing and who cares, and like all that kind of stuff. And it's like having to work in a noisy space. It's like we love peace and quiet, and we can cultivate peace and quiet within our mind, but oftentimes it's just sort of noisy, like being at a really noisy coffee shop and wanting to just sort of put on your headphones so you can focus and do your work. Choosing love, the practice of recognizing that noise and choosing love is like putting on your headphones, and it's choosing to move forward anyhow, which is very much what this idea of choosing freedom is about. And the best way that I know how to sort of switch gears from being stuck in the prison of Clever Brain and all its ideas of how you don't have the freedom to choose and you have to stay where you are, is to summon what I describe as your inner captain. You need to go get your captain. Okay. Oh, Vicky was saying I call that static when she's hears that noise of Clever Brain. I like that, dear. Yes, it is very much what that is like. And excuse me 1 second. I'm going to just put a little message back up there. Guys, we're so technology savvy these days. I love it. This is just a reminder that if you aren't able to stay, you can comment recap in the Facebook Live comments below, and it'll automatically send a message, and I will follow up with you with the link to this particular chat and the audio and the transcript. So, love being able to do that for you. Okay, so we're talking about what you do when you recognize that you are trapped by your clever brain. Whether it feels like you're trapped by success, you're trapped by expectations of others, you're trapped by just your own thoughts. What do? You summon your captain. And summoning your captain means calling forth the part of you that is the wisest, strongest, brightest part of you. And I really love using this language and this metaphor of the captain on the ship, whomever is navigating your vessel, because I think it's so powerful. I mean, when we think of a captain, she's someone who is in charge. No matter what is going on the ship, no matter the weather, no matter what is happening, how many people are freaked out or screaming, the captain still has composure, and the captain always knows what to do and is able to make a decision even when it's tough to know what decision there is to make. So you have a captain. We all have a captain. I really, truly believe this. So it's a matter of just summoning your captain and thinking about, in any given situation, when you're feeling like, oh, I don't have the freedom to choose, I wish I had more freedom to choose something. It's like, summoning your captain and thinking, well, what do we have the freedom to do? And what choices do we have? And if you felt like you had the choice, if you were tapped into your captain, what would you do? What is it that you would want to do? I was using the example earlier of the wonderful woman who had been so successful in her career and wanted to go open a farm and work with animals. It was beautiful. I loved what she was describing to me, the vision of it, and you could see her getting so excited about it, okay? So her captain would be tapped into, okay, well, what would that look like if we really started to take that idea and that which we most want a bit more seriously? What conversations would need to be had? What kind of things would need to be explored? And what next right steps could we take to move in that direction and just explore it? Again, Clever Brain wants it to be all or nothing, and it's not. It's not that way. There's all kinds of degrees of gray, so to speak. So it's about giving yourself permission to explore and to change course. And you don't have to do that right away, but just giving yourself some space in your own mind is one of the quickest and most potent ways to feel more free. Like, you have the ability to make choices just in your daily life as it is right now. So I wanted to offer kind of a few things that you can do, some next right steps that you could take to sort of loosen the chains that your clever brain might have on you in this context. And so if you are someone who feels like you are trapped in your success, one of the things that I would recommend you experiment with is kind of, for want of a better way to describe this, rebelling in plain sight. Going against Clever Brain and this idea that you are trapped in your success, that you have to keep going exactly as you have to stay in your job, you have to make the same amount of money, you have to stay in your house with the big mortgage, or whatever those things are. But what it looked like for me when I was doing this in my own life is that, at the time I was working a job that I'd been there a few years, kind of learned about as much as I was going to learn. And I was upset about the internal politics of the company, and it just felt like each day when I would go, I wasn't particularly looking forward to it. And what I wanted to do was to have more creativity and to be able to do things that were interesting to me, to challenge myself, to learn new skills. Because I am a person who is very much a starter of things, if you can't tell. And I am happiest when I am learning and kind of leaning into my edge of what is known. And so to create a learning curve for myself in the context of my regular life, I started to write a novel, and I started reading books about how to write novels, which I appreciate. The last chat that we did was about a woman who her big scary goal is to write a book. And she's like, but I don't know what to write about. And I don't even know how to write a book. I'm pretty sure you just don't start at the beginning and start writing. And I so appreciated that, because when I wanted to write a novel, I was like, I got to get all the books. I got to read how you're supposed to write a novel. And so I started writing, and I started making notes, and I came up with cards, and I was, mapping out scenes. And I would do this at lunchtime. I would, be thinking of things on my way to work in the morning during my commute. I'd be imagining dialogue between characters, and I, would pull over and like write things down. This is before voice note, most people. This was back in what, 2003 maybe. And so anyhow, within the context of my current schedule at the time, I started to create these pockets where I could explore, where I could be creative, where I could meet whatever need I had to have something new and exciting, and that I would have to really learn. So if you are feeling trapped in your success, you create some space for yourself. Using the time that you're commuting, using the time during lunch or breaks, or you can go steal off to a coffee shop for a little bit and do some Googling. Just start with a Google, people. Like, really just checking things out and being curious is enough to start to create a sense of more freedom in what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And then if you are feeling trapped by expectations, and that you don't have the freedom to make the choices you want because other people are expecting you to do something, or expecting you to continue providing something that you've been providing, check in with them. Please have a conversation. Because again, the example I was using is this incredible woman who was working so hard and making great money because she wanted to send her sons to college. She wanted to be a good mom. I think that's something that a lot of moms can relate to, a lot of parents. And yet she was also putting her dreams on hold, had been for a while, and was, set up to do so for years still, because she had another one that was going to school. So having a conversation with the people who you believe, or your clever brain has convinced you, believe are expecting certain things from you. And you could, have a conversation with them and say, like, I'm just curious. I was just thinking about this, but, if I no longer did this, what do you think would happen? Or how would you feel? Or, if this thing changed, what do you think that impact would be? And that can be a scary conversation to have. That can be a question that requires a lot of courage, because clever brain's like, ooh, no, 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 no. Like, don't start talking. Please do not ask any questions, because it's going to go badly. People are going to get mad. It will be awful. And yet you get to block out that noise and still have a conversation where you're asking questions, where you're being curious, where you're saying what's true for you. It's not, again, not all or nothing. You can just start wading into that and being curious and listening to the people who, believe you have expectations. Like, you may believe that the job that you have right now, you'd love to work from home part-time, or at least one day a week. And you're like, oh, well, my boss would never go for that. Well, having a conversation is like, what do you think would happen if I were to work from home for a day? Could we just try that out? Could we just do an experiment just to see what would happen and see if that's even a good idea? Freedom is about creating space, and it's about creating possibility and loosening the grip of the things that we feel like trap us. So Your clever brain is going to do everything it can to keep you small, to keep you where you are, and to keep you from doing anything different, saying anything, certainly, or taking any kind of action forward. Because as far as your clever brain is concerned, anything that changes is a threat to your survival. This comes from the primitive part of our brain, and we just get to be aware of it, recognize it, and then choose to take action coming from love instead of staying stuck in that fear with our clever brain. Okay? Uh, and then there's one other thing that I wanted to share that I feel like is a really useful tool for when you are feeling trapped by your thoughts and by Clever Brain's narrative of what's going on in your life. You may have heard me mention it before. It's something called The Work by an incredible spiritual leader, author named Byron Katie. And she has a website called thework.com, and it has all of her amazing tools on there. Pretty much all of them, I think, are for free. She does have some really great books that I highly recommend. She has an incredible channel on YouTube with all kinds of amazing videos. So she's really given a lot of her stuff in such a way that you don't have to even pay money for it. You just download some of the tools that she has. And one of them is something called the One Belief at a Time worksheet. And this is something that really just outlines the process of inquiry that she calls the work. And the work is really a series of questions that allows us to take a belief, take some sort of perceived truth that Clever Brain has broadcast inside our own head, and then be curious about it and be more conscious about what is really true. So I just want to walk you through this, and I'll make sure that there's a link in the comments or in the recap on the blog where you can go check this out. But it works for any thought that is stressful to you. That's what's so beautiful about it, is it's a really simple and profound tool that works for damn near everything. So I had put down the belief that we are going to use the work on as I don't have the freedom to choose something else. Okay. And the first question of Byron Katie's The Work is it true? That question can be answered with yes or no. This is one of those times where we use a yes or no. So is it true? And regardless of whether or not you answer, yes, it's true, or no, it's not true. So you could say, yes, I don't have the freedom to choose something else. That is what feels true for me in my life right now. Okay, that's question one. The next question is, can you absolutely know that it's true? This is where you get to answer either yes or no. So, if I think about it, like I don't have the freedom to choose something else. Can I absolutely know that I do not have the freedom to choose something else? When I really look at it, for me, there's some reasonable doubt. So I'd say, okay, no, I cannot know that is absolutely true. And then the third question is, how do you react? What happens when you believe the thought? So how do I react? What happens when I believe that I don't have the freedom to choose something else? For me, I feel sad and depressed, like I'm stuck. And it also shows up like me being irritable and annoyed with life. And I find myself in a rush to nowhere, but that I'm constantly rushing and irritable and just moving through my life, not really going anywhere because I feel stuck, but reacting in that sort of way. Like I don't want to be here and I'm annoyed that I have to be here. So I'd like to be somewhere else. So I'm going to rush to effectively nowhere because I feel like I don't have the freedom to choose something else. Is this making sense? Okay. So then that thought, I don't have the freedom to choose something else, does that bring peace or stress? For me, that brings stress. I think most of us would find that a stressful thought. And then what images do you see, past and future, and what physical sensations arise in your body as you think that thought and witness those images? So for me, I see myself grinding it out on a day-to-day basis and like waking up and feeling like I don't want to get out of bed. So hitting snooze and then taking my time and then being late and then feeling irritated and rushing around. And kind of going through the motions, but in a way that's rushed and stressed. And so that I'm just even talking about it, it's like feels a little tightness in my chest, and I can feel, the stress hormones in my body, and it doesn't feel good. Okay. So, what emotions arise when you believe that thought? Okay. So, when believing I don't have the freedom to choose something else, I feel angry and sad and frustrated. And then, do any obsessions or addictions begin to appear when you believe the thought, I don't have the freedom to choose something else? For me, that usually ends up in me eating too much or overdoing it on the ice cream, um, or watching too much TV, staying up too late, mindlessly scrolling on my phone late at night when it's really would be a better choice for me just to go to bed. Um, and I have, a friend who it's like I would just be waiting until my glass of wine each night, and then one glass turns into two, and it can be a pretty slippery slope when you are believing I don't have the freedom to choose something else. And then how do you treat the person in the situation when you believe that thought? And it could be, of course, people around you. It could just be yourself. So when I don't have the freedom to choose something else, if I'm believing that, then I resent the people around me. I envy my friends and their lives that I believe they have, looking at social media. And then I feel bad about myself. I don't treat myself well. I don't care for myself well when I'm believing that I don't have the freedom to choose something else. So then this is where it gets really next level. Who would you be without the thought, I don't have the freedom to choose something else? So if you just imagine that, go into my brain, remove the thought, like delete it like a file from the computer, and who would I be if I didn't have that thought, if I wasn't believing that? And I would be more free. I would be lighter. I would be happier. I would feel more creative. So just taking that thought out of the equation, and everything changes, and it starts to feel a lot better almost instantly. And then we take it up another level, where we turn this thought around. So turning this thought around is really about being curious and being flexible with the thoughts that we have. And okay, if this one thought feels really true, what if we flip it around, and what else seems just as true, if not even more true? And so one turnaround for the I don't have the freedom to choose something else is something else has the freedom to choose me, which may feel a little woo-woo. And it's this idea that, we don't know everything that's going on in the universe. We don't know all there is to know, certainly. And sometimes, you may have had the experience of life takes a left turn and it looks like it's going to be really dire and that it's not a good thing. And then something happens. Something shifts, something turns around, and we can look back on that and actually be really grateful that things happened the way that they did, because then something else came into our life. I had the experience of being laid off twice in my life, and both abruptly. I did not see it coming, and it was painful. And yet, with each of those times that I lost my job, it put me on a different path that I would not have had the courage to go on my own. So it almost felt like the universe was like, "Oh, sweetheart, you're not feeling brave enough to go start your own thing. How about we just take your job away from you, and then we'll get you going." Okay. So something else has the freedom to choose me. Another way of looking at it is I choose not to have freedom. I know that sounds a bit like, I'm sorry, what now? But that is one of the things that if we look, is that true? Is that when we are believing clever brain, when we are listening to that narrative and forgetting that we have a choice and forgetting that we do get to choose the way that we live our life, that the net effect of that could be, I choose not to have freedom. And it's really great if you can see that in yourself, because then you get to choose to have freedom. If you see that you're choosing to negate your own ability and your own power to navigate your own vessel, then you get to make a different choice. And that is freedom. And then another turnaround is I do have the freedom to choose something else. And you really want to check in with your body as you're doing this, because often our body will help us get to the truth pretty quickly, based on the sensations, when we just consider something from a different perspective. And that, I feel like, is one of the best tools. This is the work by Byron Katie that I was just sharing with you. One of the best tools to take whatever thought you have that is stressful and painful, and bring consciousness to it, inquire, and look at what's really true for you. And oftentimes for me, that is just enough to be able to remind me that I do get to choose, that I am the captain of my vessel, and that I can take action coming from love anytime that I decide to. Okay, so I want to close with a story of one of our fellow mappers. And she was the one who inspired this chat today. And as I mentioned at the top, she is someone who had, from a young age, felt like she needed to pursue a particular career and help her community and help her people. And she went and she did that, and she did it for 10 years and was very successful in doing that, and yet felt really trapped in that success and that expectation, and didn't really know what to do. I mean, she knew she wanted to do something different, but was not clear as to exactly what that looked like. And so, she said, like, I wish I had the freedom to choose something else. And what was interesting is that when we had that conversation, it was during what I call a spark session. A spark session is something that I do with people to help them get clear on the difference that they're here to make and what kind of light they want to bring into the world. What is it that is their contribution? And so when she and I had that conversation, we went really deep. It's a 2-hour conversation. It goes really, really deep into the things that we often don't talk about. And what was so cool is that after that conversation, and when she went back and she listened to it, she really started to see how some of the thoughts, some of her clever brainness, really had been limiting what freedom she currently has. And so she started to look at things in a different way and kind of open up her thinking. And not long after she and I had that spark session, she had sent me this email, and I just want to read a portion of it. And she said, on that morning after we spoke, I arrived at the train station with my to-go cup of coffee. How many of us, right, do that as just part of the normal course of the day, getting ready, commuting to work. And she said it had both the right temperature and the right amount of milk, a rare combo, which gives me joy. And the train arrived within seconds, which is also something rare that she really appreciated. It gets better. For some inexplicable reason, the train was not crowded nor smelly. In New York City, that is also apparently a rarity. And I sat down for the first time ever, because normally there's not very many seats for her to sit down, as soon as I got on the train. And I listened to Trevor Noah's audiobook all the way to Fulton Street. And Trevor Noah is an incredible comic and writer, and he hosts The Daily Show, which is really funny political satire. He wrote a book called Born a Crime. It is my favorite book from last year. So I had recommended that she listen to this book. And so instead of going through and dreading her, commute to work, and nothing had changed in terms of the external circumstances in particular, but her attitude and her way of seeing the world, then she started to see, oh, my coffee is actually perfect today. And oh, look, the perfect timing, the train's right here. And oh, look, I get to sit down. And really, she started just noticing these things, and feeling like things were kind of opening up. It's like when you're driving somewhere and it's all green lights and you just get to go. Okay. So she said, I could not stop smiling, and I knew I would be all right. Thank you for that, Amy. Little things here and there kept falling into place over the course of the last week or two. I will spare you the details, but I do want to share one more observation. This was something that she had shared, in terms of feeling trapped in her success and her, career and so forth. So I finally figured out why I love hardware stores so much, despite the fact that I rarely build or fix things. It's the endless potential for creativity that it provides. It's there for anyone to grab. Whether or not I take advantage of it, it's almost irrelevant. The mere possibility it provides makes me irrationally happy. I am an artist at heart. A candlelight. This is a human candlelight that wants to bring light into the world by being true to herself and expressing her creativity and shining as she really is. So she said, thank you, Amy, for allowing me to see that. And what I love about this example is that it was just the beginning of these changes happening in her life. And when we spoke just recently, she was so excited to tell me about this new project that she was heading at work. And, this is a job that she'd been in already for, I think, at least 2 years or so. And she'd been feeling so trapped and wanting the freedom to choose something different. And through this course of really, getting clear, of doing the spark session with me, of noticing and questioning her clever brain thoughts, and being open to what new freedom she had in her life as it is right now, things started to shift. And then she has this opportunity to lead this new project at work, which she's incredibly excited about. And she feels like she can do great things. And, just tapping into the fact that for her, freedom would look like acknowledging her creativity, which is kind of like I was talking about earlier when, I was working and decided to write a novel because I felt like I needed more freedom and I needed freedom to be creative. So she was able to actually shift that, and now she's at her same job, but she's really excited to go to work every morning. And all kinds of cool things have been happening. So this is what I feel like is a great example of how, when we remember that we are the captain of our own vessel, that we get to choose, that we get to create our belief system and pay attention to the thoughts that are running through our head, recognize what is clever brain and what is true for us, then we get to remember that we do have the choice, that we can choose, that we can create more freedom in our life just as it is right now, and be curious and just explore and see what comes of it, see what unfolds, see what shifts start to happen, because it feels so much better. Oh my God, you guys, so much better when we feel more free. And I want that for you. And I really believe that that is possible. And if that's something that still feels like, oh my God, yeah, nice story, that sounds good, but I don't know how to do it, or oh my God, I wish that could be me, but I'm not really sure what my next right steps are, then please just message me. Message me here on Facebook, comment below. I'd be happy to hear more of details of what is going on for you and be able to provide you some recommendations, or even, have a conversation about that. So just let it begin here, exactly where you are right now. If you are not feeling like you have enough freedom in your life, you get to choose and you get to take action coming from love until you can create enough space where you start to feel that freedom for yourself. All right, my dears, I love you being here. I love being able to share these things with you. And I have kind of some new ways for you to be able to get the goods, so to speak. In addition to watching here on Facebook, you can also comment below with the word recap, and that will allow me to send you a link to the blog on myprogress.com, where I am hosting recaps of these chats along with the audio of the chat, which you can listen to on SoundCloud, and then also the transcript if you want to read it, or you want to go back and reference something that I talked about, or you just want to re-listen. Because if you're like me and you really want to get something, then you need to re-listen to it multiple times. So, okay, great. Vicky says, awesome information. We'll have to think about these. Oh, wonderful. So glad to hear that, Vicky. All right, dears, we are doing it. We're growing. We're taking the actions. We're using technology. And I'm excited to be with you again on Friday. And until then, experiment. Use some of these things that I was talking about and let me know. I would love to hear. You can message me or keep us updated in the comments. All right, my loves, I will see you next time.